I see my friends. That's so wonderful. Okay, so what should we do?
Oh, there's Madanartha. Cool.
Haribol. Oh, Krishna Chaitanya. I'm so
Hey, he
happy.
wants to speak. Yeah, there you go.
Haribol.
Oh, Haribol Sham. Haribol Shama. Nice to see you.
Someone
Nice
else wants
to
to
see
say
you.
Haribol too.
Oh, hey, Hare Krishna. Nice to see everybody. Oh,
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Hare Krishna. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Such crazy time, this lockdown. You come on most nights because I don't see most people. Are you listening often?
Yes.
She's on almost every day, but she doesn't turn on the camera.
Right.
We only turn on for only special people.
I have my own key.
I'm really glad you turned it on for me. That's awesome.
I have my own key.
Okay, I guess we can get started. We got most of our devotees here, and we have our Zoom, our YouTube started as well. So, okay. So thank you very much, dear devotees, for joining this evening. So this evening we have a first-time speaker, but a long-time listener. Has been coming for many right from the beginning, and this gives me great pleasure to welcome my dear mother, Mother Vegavati, who is living in Alachua. So Mother Vegavati, many of you know her very well. You've been close friends with her. And so it doesn't need much of an introduction, but those of you who may not have heard about her, Mother Vegavati first heard about Hare Krishna, the mantra, in 1969, like a lot of other devotees, from the musical Hair. And she's going through some difficulties in her life, as most people do when they're younger, and all kinds of experiences happening. And she came to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada in the ISKCON movement. Joined the temple on Gaur Purnima in 1973. She joined the temple in Hawaii, and then in 1976 she took initiation from Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles. And then over the years she worked very hard as a Sankirtan devotee. She was in one of the book distribution parties, and she with great devotees like Mother Jadurani at the airport. And then that became her main service, going out distributing books and Sankirtan collection for a number of years. And then she took second initiation from His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj. And then in 1982, she moved to Gitanagri, where she was a very integral part of that Gitanagri community. And she was part of the Ladies Sankirtan Party. And of course, living in Gitanagri, the devotees there embodied the principle of simple living and high thinking. And Gitanagri has been a model in many ways, and even today it's one of the few farms producing ahimsa milk and produce for temples in the area. And I met her in the 90s when she was very actively distributing, teaching Bhagavad Gita and other spiritual subject matters in the universities, college preaching and teaching cooking classes. Very innovative preaching. Her and Mother Swarga were very active in that area. So just between her and Mother Swarga, just between the two of them, they collected over the years for the Gitanagri project close to $1 million in funds, and that time all those different funds that devotees collected served the foundation of the movement and the growth in the 70s and 80s. And since 2011, she is in New Ramanreti, which is a Alachua community, and she continues to serve Srila Prabhupada there, working for the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, and she's remained connected throughout, preaching, serving, and she's all kinds of other nice services too, like proofreading for Back to Godhead, proofreading for the Gitanagri Press for many years. And so it gives us really great pleasure to welcome her to this forum and to hear from her on this special day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Sorry for the lengthy introduction. I just thought somebody might not know me at all. Oh, Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the first time I've ever given a class like this online, and it's actually been several years since I gave a class. And what I'm accustomed to in that setting is, singing the Jai Radha Madhava prayers. And that's when I pray for help from the previous acharyas. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start by singing Jai Radha Madhava. Okay? I may not be able to hear you all because I know the way things are. But if you want to unmute and sing along, I don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay. Jaya Radha
Madhava
Punjabi
Hari Jaya
Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Banda Chari Yamuna Tira Banda Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bala Giribalandari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jai Om Vishnu Pai Paramahansa Parivakacharya Stotar Satashi Shimai His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivakacharya Stotar Satashi Shimai His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai. Prem se gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Shrimati Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shyama Veda Bhaktavinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. When I finally said yes to Madan Gopal and Yashoda Dulal, who kept saying, will you please speak? Then they asked me to choose a topic. And I'm not accustomed to being a topical speaker. I'm more like, you get the verse you're assigned and you read it and discuss. So I just chose a topic that was broad enough that I could draw from anywhere. I said, Krishna's mercy is available to everyone, because it is. And I have a small stack of books, because I'm not the kind of person that plans out ahead of time exactly what I'm going to say. And so my first thought about how Krishna's mercy is available to everyone was chapter 7 of the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I know my audience is very familiar with Srila Prabhupada's books. So and I wanted to just ask all of you for your blessings. I can't see the names, or I'm not right now seeing the names of everybody there, but I just want blessings from everybody. And I expect that probably Jayadvaita Swami is also here, because he's always here. And so thank you. Maharaj gave me his blessings last night. So very grateful to be able to, Haribo Maharaj. So I'm very humbled and grateful to be here. And I'm just sharing with you one of my favorite verses is from the Adi Leela. It's it's Adi Leela chapter 7, text 21, or 20 and 21 together. So I'll just read the Bengali as best I can. Se pancha tatva mili prithvi asiya purva prema bhanderera mudra ugadhiya panche mili lutte prema kare ashvadana yate yate piye trishna bade anukshana. So, the characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his other associates of the Panchatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst for it grew. So this is the beginning of a section of Chaitanya Charitamrita where it's described how Lord Chaitanya and his associates, the Panchatattva, just spread love of Godhead everywhere. This purport, Prabhupada says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called Mahavaranyavatara, because although he is Sri Krishna himself, he is even more favorably disposed to the poor fallen souls than Lord Sri Krishna. When Lord Sri Krishna himself was personally present, he demanded that everyone surrender unto him and promised that he would then give one all protection. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this earth with his associates, he simply distributed transcendental love of God without discrimination. Sri Rupa Goswami, therefore, could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Sri Krishna himself, for no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can distribute confidential love of the Supreme Person. And in the next couple verses, it goes on, Puna, 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 Piyaya Haya Mahamata, Nache Kande Hase Gaya Yaiche Maramata. Sri Panchatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of God. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen, and in this way they distributed love of Godhead. And the following verse is the one that I had really been thinking of. That Patra Patra Vichara Nahi Nahi Sthana Sthana Ye Yanha Paya Tana Kare Prema Dana. In distributing love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed love of Godhead. So this is so much Srila Prabhupada's mood in bringing Krishna consciousness to the West. I just completed reading through all 6 volumes, or now it's 2 big fat volumes of the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita again, because it's so relishable to start with Prabhupada's childhood, hear the society where he began, where he was raised, hear about his first meeting and subsequent instructions from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. You know, you were educated young man. Why don't you spread Lord Chaitanya's mission to the Western world in the English language? So all his life, Prabhupada was thinking, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. And first he thought, I'll make some money and then I'll use the money to preach. But Krishna had another idea in mind, that he made everything fail so that Prabhupada would have no other choice but then to answer the call he got in a dream. You come out and you take sannyas and you preach in like that. So when Prabhupada, I mean, we know, I think it was just yesterday was actually the Vedic calendar of the day that Prabhupada arrived in America. It's quite incredible that that he would. I just turned 70 like 6 months ago or so, and Prabhupada turned 69 by Western calculations. He was in his 70th year by the Indian system, on the boat on the way over, and I can't even imagine. But we're not Prabhupada. We're simply tiny little grains of dust that are recipients of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. But he was thinking like this, it doesn't matter whether they're qualified or not. If they have the qualification of hearing, like we were recently hearing on one of these classes, when Prabhupada arrived in Boston Harbor and got out and walked around with Captain Pandya and saw what is the nature of the just general American people. And he went back and wrote in his diary that most of the population here is covered by nature's modes of passion and ignorance. I don't know how they'll be able to understand the transcendental message of Vasudeva, but I'm confident. And he quoted Krishna's words in Bhagavatam that if a sober person goes on hearing regularly classes on the Bhagavatam, if he hears Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, if he hears regularly, then our hearts will become purified and the modes of passion and ignorance will be reduced almost to nil. As long as we're in material bodies, they're going to have their effect. But we're celebrating this week particularly an emphasis on the Shravanam, the hearing process. So just want to read you some of this purport that Srila Prabhupada wrote to the verse about they didn't consider who was a fit candidate and who was not. Purport. There are some rascals who dare to speak against the mission of Lord Chaitanya by criticizing the Krishna consciousness movement for accepting Europeans and Americans as brahmanas and offering them sannyas. But here is an authoritative statement that in distributing love of Godhead, one should not consider whether the recipients are Europeans, Americans, Hindus, Muslims, and so on. The Krishna consciousness movement should be spread wherever possible. And one should accept those who thus become Vaishnavas as being greater than Brahmanas, Hindus, or Indians. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired that his name be spread in each and every town and village on the surface of the globe. Therefore, when the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is spread all over the world, should those who embrace it not be accepted as Vaishnavas, Brahmanas, and Sannyasis? These foolish arguments are sometimes raised by envious rascals, but Krishna conscious devotees do not care about them. We strictly follow the principles set down by the Panchatattva. So Srila Prabhupada was very, very clear in understanding what is the difference between the body and the soul. I had very, very few personal contact with Srila Prabhupada, but 2 or 3 times he came to Honolulu while I was living on Kauai, and I would fly over and hear from him for, say, a week, usually. And then again in Los Angeles, when I got initiated, he was there for about a week. But I didn't have close association, but one of the few moments that experiences that I had in his presence was has stayed with me through all these years because it's so heart-touching. So I'll just tell a little about that. Even though others have told very similar, this was my one, that it was a kirtan, Guru Puja. And actually, yeah, so somehow or another, in this room full of people, I felt that Srila Prabhupada is looking right at me. He's looking right into my very soul, making me see for myself that I am actually a soul. And at the same time, I was also seeing a heart that was full of petty, small-minded behavior and attitudes. And I was just completely filled with remorse, thinking, oh my God, these impurities are just too much. I had to look away. I was so mortified to be in the presence of such a pure soul. But the kirtan's going on, and I couldn't help myself. Of course, I looked back at Srila Prabhupada. He was still seeing all my faults. He was still seeing me as a spirit soul, and he was loving me so much. But I was still mortified by my faults, and I had to look away again. The third time when I looked back, and it just was one of these, I'm sure he was relating to everyone in the room at the same time, but I just felt he's looking right at me, and he's letting me know for sure and certain, you are a pure soul. You love Krishna. I love you. Don't worry about those things, those impurities. Just stick with the process. They will fall off. They will just fall off because they're not you. And so this, because I've heard so many other people express very similar experiences, I can understand that Srila Prabhupada, when he saw everyone that he saw, wherever he went in his life, he was actually seeing the spirit soul and not the body and not the conditioning. Because some of us may come from very well-off, educated backgrounds. Some of us have lived in poverty. I've heard the most extraordinary stories of how people come to Krishna consciousness from so many different backgrounds. But why? Because Prabhupada is seeing the soul inside. When he left this world, I wasn't there. I heard that some of his godbrothers, or at least one of his godbrothers, made a remark, something like, I could have done what he did, but I didn't have a temperament for mixing with low-class people. And I just, it's like when I think about the look that I got from Srila Prabhupada, yeah, sure. All the Westerners, how we were brought up, we were all quite low class because we didn't know any better. But when we were treated as a soul and given opportunities to engage in devotional service, we took it. So this purport that I just read, this is the essence. Prabhupada said, oh, you've somehow or another come into a situation that's not favorable, but by essence, you can do Krishna consciousness. What is the difficulty? Someone else is looking. If all they can see is a low-class person, they don't have that transcendental vision. So this is the thing, that love of Godhead, Krishna consciousness, is meant for everyone. And we, his followers, are meant to try to reach everyone and not ourselves have preconceived ideas about who is a fit candidate and who is not. Although, of course, he wants us to go to the universities and speak there so that the educated people who will be leading the next generation, they should be inundated with Krishna consciousness. But it's also, I have a devotee friend who for some time in her life was a homeless person. And so whenever I see, now there's more at Gainesville, you'll sometimes see people at a stoplight or something just begging. I try to keep some mantra card if I have some prasadam with me, but I'll also give them $1 or $2 and tell them Hare Krishna, because I think, who knows? But and sometimes they'll take the card, oh, Hare Krishna. So who knows when this person may again meet a devotee or have an opportunity to continue. I don't think I have the book, but I was remembering whenever Nanda Prabhu gives class, she practically always quotes from a purport in the Nectar of Instruction that says that devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to the ultimate goal. So, we don't know what timeline things happen on, but I can remember back when we were doing Harinam, even in State College, sometimes these businessmen would walk by and they were really trying to look like they didn't hear us, they didn't see us, they didn't care about us. And I was thinking, yes, but inside your heart, the soul is jumping up and down, so happy to hear Krishna's name. And you just never know when what opportunity, how these things will accumulate to the point where a person can take up the process. So what I'd like to do is see if anybody has any questions or comments now. And otherwise, I have a Bhagavatam volume. I have Bhagavad Gita here. I'd be very happy to read more and say more. But I am curious if there's any feedback or comments or questions now.
Yeah, if anybody has, you can unmute yourself and comment or question. I found that reference because we were studying it recently, and it's a Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Instruction, verse 3. Devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Isn't the purport to Nectar of Instruction, verse 3. We were just studying that last week.
Oh, nice.
Priya has a comment or a question. Go ahead.
I was just thinking when you were talking about the, first of all, thank you for the lovely class. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm so happy everybody's getting a chance to hear from you. When you were talking about the businessmen passing by, I was thinking how, yes, the soul might have been inside yet going, yay, I get to hear Krishna's name. But at the same time, because they're adults and they've, not only have accumulation of conditioning from past lives, but just from this life of trying to maintain a certain persona, it's very difficult for them to even acknowledge that there is any attraction. And I would imagine that maybe even that attraction would frighten them. And so they're like, let me pretend I don't hear it. But I was thinking, because of that, I was thinking how wonderful it is to do street Harinam, because there are plenty of people who don't have that kind of conditioning, in the sense that children or simple people, that if they can get to, and I'm considering myself one of those people, because the first time I ever heard Krishna's name was as a child on the street with my father, instantly attracted. Why? Because I had no filters from this life that had already imposed themselves on me. And so I think, doing street Harinam is valuable for those people who are a little more simple, a little more open, and haven't had all the weight of adulthood covering them, that maybe they can't do anything now. You can't go into people's houses and say, yeah, I'm going to preach Krishna consciousness to your child. But as they grow, they remember. And then if they see devotees, they have some sort of positive, they already have a positive impression because they heard it as a child. Or if they're simple, not very, simple people, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but then if they later get an opportunity, there's already been that positive impression. So thanks for, making that point about the soul inside is eager to hear.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard of children actually dragging their parents to the temple because they were attracted. And the parents, Yashoda Dulal had a comment there. What did it say? Acharya was 9 years old when he saw Harinam. That's awesome. And Yashoda Dulal said something about children and dogs also liking the kirtan.
Yeah, and you see them, all the time, like on Harinams. New York City is so ripe for this. Brajrani is on. She organizes these Harinams in Manhattan. And we see this all the time. People passing by, many of them ignore the Harinam. They might be afraid or ashamed to admit that they're attracted. But then the dogs and the children, they force the adults to stop because they just won't move from there.
That's awesome. That's so very cool. Right. Well, the thing is, because there's such a variety of living beings, and there's different, what I was recently reading, the three modes of nature in yellow, red, and blue combined to become 9, combined to become 81, and end up being 8,400,000 species and so many varieties. Even within the human species, even within one country, even there's so many different tastes. Someone will be attracted to very austere things. I heard someone praising Krishna once, and it was like he was really admiring the organizational skills of Krishna and arranging the universe the way he did. And I was like, well, yeah, but he also has a very humorous side and a loving side, but they were appreciating the organization. So, so someone can write scientific literature. I learned a lot from reading Jayadvaita Swami's Vanity Karma, because I read some Bible when I was growing up, but I wasn't that familiar with the book of Ecclesiastes. And I was like, oh, wow, there's so many parts of our normal everyday jargon that that are from that book. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. Like actually, when the last election was taking place, I happened to be reading, because I do also outside reading as well as Srila Prabhupada's books. I was reading a book about the life of Thoreau. And there was a presidential election that took place at that time. I can't now remember who it was, but it was a very, very wealthy man that had been wealthy all his life. And he ran on the platform of being the people's candidate. And somehow he managed to make people think he really was the people's candidate and won the election. And I thought, oh, wow, we're thinking it's the first time it's happened. But there's nothing new under the sun. So, thanks, Tulsi Priya. Hare Krishna. Anything else, or shall I read something else?
Please go
I
ahead.
have first canto.
Mother Jayashree had a comment.
Who did?
Mother Jayashree.
Oh, hey, Jayashree.
She had a comment in the Dhyana Swami's diary, has many incidents of children being attracted and bringing their parents to Krishna consciousness. Listen to chat.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Hello, hello. I'm here.
It's very nice to see your name. And I just learned, you'll be happy to know that I just learned that there's something other than collard greens one can use to make patra. But Madan Gopal and family, Manasi Ganga and her mom made, and the real thing is to use elephant ears.
Collard greens is the alternative. The original is the elephant ears. Right.
I thought the original was taro leaves.
Are taro leaves similar? Are they not the same?
Well, maybe it's the same thing. In Hawaii, they call it taro.
It's the same thing, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Cool. All right. But we have to learn the process. He said there's a way to treat it before you cook it.
Well, you have to cook it. If you can't eat it in a salad, it's poisonous. You have to cook it.
I've had that experience.
And has to have tamarind.
You have to cook it. And
for the warning.
And tamarind is an important ingredient to neutralize the oxalic acid.
Okay.
Oh, good to know.
Okay, cool. Thanks. That was just a little side thing between me and Jayashree.
When we lived together.
Yeah. And she never knew how to make patra. And I only knew how to make large quantities of it and have it be like a whole day affair. And she would just go out and pick a couple leaves and make enough for one little offering. And it was, that taught me something. Oh, it doesn't have to be a big deal. So I found another verse that I thought I would shelter in. We've been reading prayers of Queen Kunti in Alachua. And so one of them in particular seems apropos for this week of Shravanam. It's Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 36. And Queen Kunti has been listing many reasons why Krishna may have appeared. But then she says, Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinantya Bhikshnasa Smaranti Nandanti Tave Hitam Jana Ta Eva Pasyantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So even that I find so hopeful, that just by appreciating that someone has a taste for chanting, or appreciating that someone is glorifying the Lord. I forgot to look through the database and see if I can find, written proof, but I used to hear that Srila Prabhupada had once said, even if someone says, oh, how nice, they have shaved heads, he makes great spiritual advancement. So any appreciation of the devotees, someone just thinks a devotee is a nice person, because they had a good exchange with someone, even if they don't know you're a devotee, but you're carrying Krishna. And of course, we tried to say Krishna's name and give some prasadam. But those who, even those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so. So, without going through the whole purport, even though the Lord may be present before our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. That this necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotional service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the popular literatures which are generally heard, chanted, repeated, and so on by the people in general. But in spite of such hearing, sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotional service does not see the Lord eye to eye. The reason is that the first item, Shravana, is very important. If hearing is from the right sources, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. So I remember when I first became attracted to Krishna consciousness, and then my birthday came and my father wanted to give me a present. I couldn't think of anything. And then I said, if I send you a book, will you read it? That would be like a present. If I send you something, will you read it? Oh, what is the book? Bhagavad Gita. Oh, my dear, I've read so many Bhagavad Gitas. But of course, he never became a devotee from reading them. And so that's what Prabhupada's saying. So I explained, this one's different. It's written as it was intended by the speaker himself. I sent him the Macmillan paperback, and it was still on his shelf when I visited years later. And I actually gave him this, the very one from the Bhagavatam, a larger book, on a visit one time. And I was showing him how that introductory verse where Prabhupada says, on the other hand, such transcendental literatures that describe the Lord, they're heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest, even if they're full of some error or fault. And he was saying, I'm not a native English speaker, so please excuse the faults. And when my father understood, we'd been looking through it, looked at the pictures, this and that. And when I read him that verse, I said, so when you're reading this, if you see any discrepancy, just overlook grammatical. Oh, you're giving me this book? So I feel like that's he takes, he appreciates that there's something good in Prabhupada's book. So even if he didn't read much, he had a little prasadam. He's on his way. The process has begun. So any other comments?
Mataji?
Yes. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, nice to see you.
Vegavati Dasi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hi, please accept mine, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. And Mataji, before I ask my question, I want to offer to you a Vedic gift from a Vedic son to a Vedic mother. And it goes like this. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-35. And are you with me?
Yes, I am. I was surprised
And,
that I was expecting it to
and
be.
this is it.
Okay.
What?
When you read your quote, I was expecting it was from the 10th canto, but it sounds like it was 4th canto.
Yes, fourth canto, chapter 30, verse 35. And Mataji, this gift is in retribution for is a retribution related to how regular you have been here present for this sangha, in favor of this sangha. Now my question is, the theme of your class is Krishna's mercy is available to all.
Yes.
Okay, then I have here the book which the author is Satchvar Das Goswami, Vaishnava Behavior and the 26 Qualities of a Devotee. And somewhere in this book, I have no time now to find it, I find that in terms of making social life with other living entities, a devotee should love God, should make friendship with, should serve the advanced devotees, should make friendship with the ones who are on the same level, should be merciful to the innocent, and should avoid the oh my God, what is the envious? So in relation to the theme for your class, my question is, what to do if you say that Krishna's mercy is available to all? Why is it that avoiding the envious is a rule or a regulation in order for us to practice bhakti yoga?
Well, it's my understanding is that this is particularly for the Madhyama Adhikari, these instructions for
yes,
devotees.
right. Yes, it is.
Yes. So if a person is of Srila Prabhupada's stature or someone who's actually Uttama Adhikari of that stage, they can, at Lord Nityananda, I mean, look, he went to Jagai Madai, the worst ruffians. But actually, Lord Chaitanya wanted to punish Jagai after they had struck Lord Nityananda on the head with a pot. But Lord Nityananda said, "My Lord, if you are if you're cruel to them, if you punish them, what will happen to all the other souls of this age? Because everybody in this age is like Jagai Madai." I just am trying to get a picture out of a frame because for my own encouragement, I brought a little picture of my deities and I wanted to show them to you, but I'm afraid that the frame will be a distraction. So I don't know if I can get the picture out of the frame. So I show you the way it is. Can you see this? These deities?
Yes, Gauranitai.
Yes, it's Gauranitai, but they're from Ekachakra. And so they're in the standard pose that the deities in Ekachakra will be unless you ask the Murti Wala for something else. And how they stand is Lord Chaitanya has his arm upraised and Lord Nityananda has his two arms out. I think at the Bhakti Center or maybe Yashoda Dulal's deities are in this same pose.
Yeah,
and anyway,
our home deities are from
right,
Ekachakra,
okay.
but they used to be in the Bhakti Center, yeah.
Okay.
Years ago.
So one time Barsana Maharaj was doing a program at our home in Pennsylvania, and he explained that this is the standard pose in Ekachakra. And because Lord Nityananda is from that town, naturally they favor him. They always want to glorify him especially. And so he's a little taller than Lord Chaitanya. And this pose is the Jagai Madai pastime. So Lord Chaitanya is coming on the scene after the Jagai Madai have attacked Lord Nityananda, and Lord Chaitanya is ready to punish. Bring my chakra!
Wow.
And Lord Nityananda's got his arms out saying, "My Lord, if you punish them, then what will all the rest of the people do? You have to give them mercy. You have to give them mercy. Because otherwise everybody in this age of Kali will be hopeless. So we owe a lot to Lord Nityananda for that day. And but that's someone on the very highest level, Lord Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada, those of us who are trying to come to the Madhyama platform or operate on the Madhyama platform, we're not so powerful to be able to give love of Godhead to super, super offensive people. But if we try and somebody's actually antagonistic, the chances of them becoming offensive increase. They're then pushed further from Krishna. If you can make Krishna's mercy available to them, and we take that risk on behalf of our spiritual masters, to try to approach people, but if they're too envious, it's better for them if you don't try to push it on them. In other words, you give them what they can take. Like somebody may not want to be preached to, but they may take a cookie.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
And so then they can get a little purified, or if they happen to walk by the Harinam and pretend they don't hear, maybe next time they'll want to hear. We give them what they can take, but you don't force it on them. And someone who's inquiring, we're happy to tell them whatever. Is that all right?
That wonderful, wonderful answer. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So,
Rajalila, I see you. I'm so happy to see you. Do you have any comments?
Hare Krishna. I don't know you.
Yeah, I'm just relishing listening to you. Yeah, it's like old times.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Miss you too.
Gurudas Prabhu has a comment. Gurudas Prabhu, you'll have to speak up. We can't hear you that clearly.
All I wanted to add to that was we're also in a way defending our own bhakti creeper in the sense that engaging with a demonic personality or somebody that is bent on being atheistic or offensive can sway or distract a person from their mission of preaching Krishna consciousness, or even sow some doubt.
Right. Yes. If a person, Prabhupada wanted that all his disciples and followers come to at least the Madhyama platform, but he wasn't thinking that everyone was already there, And so, yes, your point is very well taken, that if in the neophyte stage, we can be easily swayed. The knowledge of scripture isn't so strong. And the conviction isn't so strong. A Madhyama has conviction. He has faith in the scriptures, but he may not always be able to draw the right quote or defend himself against, say, some very learned scientist or especially Mayavadi type person. But his faith will not be shaken. But when we're not yet fully situated in the Madhyama phase, definitely we have to be careful. That's a very good point. That's why actually when I first went out on book distribution, I had come from a Christian background. I had had some very moving experiences as a young adult. And so I couldn't understand. My first service wasn't to actually distribute books, but it was to, they learned that I knew something massage. So my first service was to follow Jadharani around, and when she had back problems, or then if she was too tired, we'd go into the ladies' restroom and I'd give her a little back massage so she could keep going. And then it began all the ladies in the LA temple that were book distributors. That's what I did, So I was following someone around, and every time a person came up and tried to talk to her about Jesus, she was like, she just sort of brushed them off and go on her way. And I didn't appreciate that, because I thought, well, they're just asking some questions. But when it was my turn to be a distributor, I learned firsthand that often people are simply trying to bait you, and they're only pretending to be curious. And you can tell. And so then it was like, oh, it's not the best use of my time to spend time with this person that really is looking for a fight. So I give them a book or some prasadam or whatever you can, but you move on to the next person. So better energy is used to, as Vijay Krishna was saying, to speak to the innocent, to encourage those who are curious, those who are suffering, those who want to know.
Very nicely put about, it reminds me of the verse that we studied last night in the Bhagavatam about saving time and not wasting any time.
Oh, good. Actually, there was something I came in quite late last night, but I want to thank Jayadvaita Swami for making this one point that I did hear when he was talking about time is money. And he was talking about charity in the, as described in the Vedas, that if you give in charity to an unqualified person, it still comes back to you. If you give to a brahmana who's like half qualified, in another life, your money comes back twice. And if you give to a highly qualified brahmana in charity, you get so much, practically unlimited result. And he said, time is money. So even if the time that you put into devotional service isn't full-hearted, I know many of us struggle with, paying complete attention when we chant japa or anything. We can be distracted because we're in these material bodies and we're living in this degraded age. But he said, even if you do some half-hearted devotional service, but just the time that you put into it is still going to give a better result, at least twice back. And I was so encouraged, and I wanted to thank Maharaj for saying that. Acharya just put something, but it went away too fast. How do you find the chat?
I can read it out. Acharya says, Prabhupada said that before you spend a lot of time preaching to someone, it's from letter to His Holiness Satsurdas Goswami Maharaj. So therefore, if you are spending so much time with individuals, they must first admit that they do not know who they are and do not know who is God.
And I remember hearing that when Tamal Krishna Maharaj and the Radha Damodar men were going to college campuses, Tamal had a way. He said, he would tell the men, when you approach someone, ask them if they're happy. And if they say yes, don't even bother. Because you'll find enough people that are willing to admit that they're suffering, and they'll be much more ripe candidates for understanding what we have to offer. So that's another point. I think it's 9:00.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much out of time, but it moved so quickly. And I wish we had more time to spend with you. It was a light-hearted, wonderful nectarian discussion, and the fantastic interactivity from all the devotees in attendance. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mother Vegavati, for giving us your time and opening up this topic, which is so close to the heart of the matter in Krishna consciousness, isn't it? The mercy of the Lord. And then we have a lot of appreciations pouring in from the devotees regarding your presentation. So I'd like to request the devotees to please hang on just 1 minute as I make the announcements, and then we'll open it up for everyone to say Hari Bol to Mother Vegavati. So just a couple of quick announcements. So there's this personal finance planning seminar that's starting this weekend. There's a lot of wonderful things coming up this weekend. and that is 4 Sundays in a row. It's personal finance planning taught by His Grace Vamshi Dari Gopal Prabhu, who is also a regular member of our group here. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 4 Sundays in a row starting this Sunday, September 13th. Learn how to prepare for financially stable retired life and apply the freedom of your time and stress-free life to Krishna consciousness. Lots of wonderful things to learn, so please sign up for it. It doesn't cost anything. You can find our link on the ISKCON of New Jersey website. And then another wonderful seminar starting off this Saturday is the Pathways to Perfection, or the 9 Processes of Devotion. You can see we have quite a lineup of speakers kicking off this Saturday with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, followed by Radhika Raman Prabhu, and so many wonderful speakers on all the 9 processes. So please be sure to join. The link to register for the Zoom is tinyurl.com P2 Perfection. It's the Pathways to Perfection. Or you can just log on YouTube on tinyurl.com/temple@BC. That's Temple at Bhakti Center. So, and it's organized by the Bhakti Center and co-hosted by our New Jersey, New York, and Gitanagari temples. So we had a very rich week so far. And as always, on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj will be taking us through the 2nd canto in an interactive session. And on Sunday, we have His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj. So please be sure to join. And thank you again, Mother Vegavati. And please, we look forward to hearing from you again in the future. And of course, we'll be seeing you regularly on a daily basis in our audience. So if anyone else would like to say a quick Haribol, you feel free to unmute yourself. But before that, I'd like to request Nilmani Prabhu, our temple president, to offer the first word of thanks. Nilmani Prabhu is right here. Go ahead, Nilmani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother Vegavati. It's so nice to hear from you. We see you quite often every day on the classes and so forth, but I think it's the first time I've actually heard you give a class. It doesn't seem to me like you haven't given a class in so many years. You're just naturally able to just fluently speak, and so much from your heart that it's just naturally pleasurable to hear. So thank you so much for sharing all those wonderful pastimes and ideas and history of your interaction with devotees and the Krishna conscious movement. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nilmani Prabhu. And Radharani.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, so nice to see you.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji, very nice class.
Thanks to you. Hare Krishna, Jai, all glory to your service. So many years.
Thank you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Mataji, Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Haribol.
Haribol, thank you so much. Miss you.
I miss you too, Tulsipriya Prabhu. Haribol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you very much.
Nice class. Thank you.
Vegavati, Dasi Mataji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I have a final question. Did you like my gift?
I did. I liked it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hey, Haribol. Miss you guys.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for being here. It gave me courage.
Thank you, Vegavati Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Vegavati.
Such a valuable asset to the community.
Vegavati,
hey,
you did good. Thank
you, sweetheart. Haribol.
You were worried, but you didn't have to worry because it's coming from your heart and Krishna.
I went and got blessings from Swarga the way I used to get blessings from my friend Lalita Amrita. Hey, Bhagavati.
Thank you.
Oh, sweetie.
So nice to see the deities and such a nice class. And it's really sweet. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We're waiting for this day.
Hare
Now you're
Krishna.
going to give class in Alachua.
Yes, it's time.
Yeah, definitely.
Jai.
Thank you, Vegavati. Wonderful class. Shriarika texted me saying, please tell her wonderful class. She's getting ready for bed, so she's not camera ready.
All right. Tell her thank you so much, and thank you so much too. Haribol Prabhu.
You and Swarga, first Krishna conscious part at Shamaka Rishi's house.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Haribol.
I had to miss the last part because I got a phone call.
No
but
problem.
I was here for half and it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Haribol. Haribol. And Haribol Gurudas, I heard your comment. I didn't.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Dandavad, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much again for joining and for making it a lovely evening. So we're seeing you all tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Love you all.
Wonderful section.